This is Dr. Z speaking to you from the year 20.23. This is Q-Shaft broadcast number 9. I will continue with the discussion of the grid. The importance of understanding the grid cannot be underestimated. It will set your mind free to discover new facets of the universe. I ended Q-Shaft 8 with a question, preceded with, two cubes of the grid can combine into the quote-unquote size of the smallest of the two cubes, leaving a cube of the grid quote-unquote missing. Guess what that implies? It implies that the grid, or should I call it space-time, is distorted. Two cubes of the grid take up one space, meaning that the space left behind by one of the grid's cubes is displaced by other cubes filling in that space. Those cubes become stretched, so space is stretching and distorting. This is also known as Einstein's gravity. Recall that everything must travel in the grid. There is nothing that is not part of the grid. Everything in the grid moves from one grid cube to the next, with less energy needed to move in a quote-unquote straight line because of the geometry of the cubes. This helps explain what straight line inertia is. The grid cube moves in a straight line unless a force moves them from that line. Also, there is a limit as to how fast one grid cube can take up the characteristics of another grid cube. This is most obvious with electromagnetic waves. How fast this is of course the speed of light. It's all very simple and obvious once you're comfortable with the grid. Other properties of nature become clear. For example, Newton stated that the force of gravity is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between two masses. The arithmetic square can denote a geometry, a width and length, and in this case it does. To go further, grid cubes can stretch. They have immense quote-unquote tensile strength. It's possible for them to slide between other grid cubes if enough energy is directly absorbed, though this is rare. They also are very similar in this regard to the strings in your string theory. This happens to explain a quandary in quantum mechanics. When a particle disintegrates into two small particles, each with a spin, where the identification of the spin of one particle instantaneously defines the spin of the other, even if the particles are separated by great distances. Thus, this communication apparently exceeds the speed limit of light. These spin particles occupy adjacent grid cubes, which are stretched great distances between other cubes in the grid. So when the spin of one particle is observed, the other particle's spin is defined over great spatial distances, but only over two grid cubes in distance. Thus it appears to happen instantaneously, invalidating the speed limit of light, but in reality it does not. Consider what would happen if you linked trillions of these stretched grid cubes together side by side and end to end, creating a cable of stretched cubes. You could move a larger object through these stretched sections, the same as through your theoretical wormholes. This is how one can traverse space in a manner that appears to be many times faster than the speed of light. Also, and forgive me for saying so much at one time, the grid explains why particles seem to be created out of nothing and then almost immediately disappear. Sometimes the grid cube will be an intersecting point of different light energies that are passing through space. These two energies can coalesce, creating an observable particle of mass. But these energies don't stay together for long. Their inertia forces them to continue on their way. As I mentioned, nothing can transpire faster than the reaction of one grid cube to another, nor can anything exist outside of the grid. So God is defined as being something that encompasses the entirety of the grid and is simultaneously outside the grid. God can then do amazing things. How's that? Enough for now. Study what I have told you and expand your mind. Try to answer this question, which will be answered in the next Q shaft.